I truly believe the fines, the targeting, the negative publicity shined on the issue. That's very unnecessary and has furthered the mental health issues for Ben. Either you help Ben or come out and say he's lying. Which one is it?
Simmons, they cleared out for him. Tapping his way in. Spins on Gallinari. Gives it up. Oh, he was right there. And a foul as Thibault goes to the basket. Boy, Simmons, uncontested, had a layup, but he leaves it for Thibault.
Ben Simmons can still be a point guard for a championship team like the one you guys want to be done?
Yeah, David, I don't know that question or the answer to that right now.
Ben Simmons had the most improbable turn of events in the span of just months. And yet, here we are today. And still, a lot of us are unsure of what's really going on with Ben Simmons. In the 2021 NBA playoffs, the Philadelphia 76ers entered the tournament as favorites to at least reach the Eastern Conference Finals against the KD Harden-Kyrie-led Brooklyn Nets. But obviously, we didn't get the opportunity to see that matchup. And both teams had entirely different reasons as to why. As the first seed in the East, Philly matched up with the upstart Atlanta Hawks, led by master crowd igniter Trae Young. And let me start by saying that this series had absolutely zero business going 7 games in the first place. After the 76ers jumped out to a 2-1 lead, they lost the next 2 games, putting them in a 3-2 hole. And late in Game 4, the Hawks figured something out. Ben Simmons literally had free throw demons in his mind, and it would begin to seriously concede a ton of Philly's offensive game plan. But it wasn't until Game 5 when Atlanta said, "Oh, this is fun. Let's do this over and over and over again," in what turned into a hack-a-Ben defensive scheme for the Hawks. In just the second quarter of Game 5, Simmons shot 2 for 8 from the free throw line, and that's when it all really started. In the entire second half, Simmons shot just 1 shot. 1. He looked out of sorts, lost, confused, and even scared. And though the Sixers managed to pull off a clutch Game 6 win on the road to keep their season alive, guys, Ben Simmons officially became a huge liability on the offensive end. But how in the world did we end up getting here anyway? While we see this current Ben, it's easy to forget that just a few short years ago, Ben Simmons was considered by so many fans and pundits as one of the best players under 25 in the NBA, along with the likes of future MVPs Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And this was after Ben Simmons entered the NBA as one of the best college prodigies of his generation. A point forward with elite finishing, sneaky quickness, fast twitch athleticism, and the ability to play all 5 positions on both ends of the court. Now that's rare. At least that's what everyone thought. But Simmons felt that he was born to play the point guard position because he was so great going coast to coast. Transition for sure. Getting the rebound and going, that's probably the most fluid part of my game. I feel more comfortable running the point because I know I can lead a team and take control of games. The man was even shooting jumpers for a little while, leading to comparisons between him and guys like LeBron and Magic Johnson. At 6'10 and 225, he had the body and transition capabilities of a Magic Johnson, with athleticism more like LeBron. The only problem was he never looked comfortable shooting the balls outside the paint. Even when he shot jumpers during the preseason in his earlier years and in the summer league, he shot grudgingly, almost as if he was being forced to or had to. And while it's easy to say in hindsight that was the problem, it didn't exactly feel like a problem at the time. Why? Because Simmons' production elsewhere was off the charts. A lot of people are forgetting that his rookie season was something else. 12 triple-doubles, the most TDs in a season by a rookie, the highest win shares among rookies, second in the entire NBA in both defensive win shares and defensive plus-minus, and a 32-point, 18-rebound, 15 assist, and 6 steal game versus LeBron's Cavs towards the end of the season. And in his first playoff appearance, Simmons looked as advertised, averaging 8, 11, and 9 on 50% shooting in a 5-game gentleman's sweep of the Miami Heat. And even in the following round, when the Sixers ran into a defensive-minded Celtics squad, Ben played better than most first-timers would, scoring 14 per game on 48% shooting. But this is where his lack of shooting for the first time in his career was becoming a more glaring issue. What was working against inferior competition and in the regular season wasn't exactly working in the postseason against a good team. And that progressively became the theme of Simmons in the playoffs, and his fit against Joel Embiid when the lights got the brightest Simmons couldn't space the floor, and it forced Embiid out of his game since his game is built in the interior. Just look at the drop-off in production in Simmons' first 2 postseasons, from the first round to the second round. You can just see smarter, tougher teams would just take Simmons out of his rhythm. And it, of course, really hurt Philly's chances of moving forward. Fast forward just a couple of years later, and I don't even know what to tell you, but it got down bad for Simmons. He wouldn't shoot and was afraid that if he drove the ball inside, he would get fouled and would have to stand all alone at the free throw. And he wanted absolutely no part in doing any of that. In a win or go home Game 7 at home versus the Hawks, oh boy.
So the question is, they're gonna have to sit this kid down and say, Ben, it's either A or B. You're gonna have to work on your shooting first. Then you're gonna have to shoot the ball. Then you're gonna have to shoot free throws, or we can't win with you.
Man, I'll be honest. I don't know how to say it, but I thought the turning point was just, we had an open shot.
And yeah, this is what happens when you refuse to shoot.
Way in, spins on Gallinari, gives it up. Oh, he was right there. And a foul as Thibault goes to the basket.
That was effectively the end of the short-lived Simmons era in Philly. And I can't remember another player in the history of the NBA who had a breakup with their former team quite like what happened between Simmons and Philly.
What happened in the Hawks series?
We lost.
No. Hell no. Not we lost. You were scared to lay the ball up on Trae Young. And then, of course, with Simmons showing up for training camp in sweats and with his phone in his pocket, Doc Rivers told him to leave. The team suspended him for actions detrimental to the team, and they would go on to fine Simmons $360,000 for each game he refused to play in. These fines totaled an insane $19 million when it was all said and done. The writing was on the wall. Simmons wanted out, and his days in Philly were numbered. I've seen players demand trades because of a lacking supporting cast, bad management, or maybe because the team they're on can't and won't be able to contend soon enough. But never because the player was too scared to shoot and because one bad playoff series. Now, I realize that some firmly believe that Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid unfairly threw a still very young player under the bus because of some poor decisions he made on the court. But for a franchise that stood with Simmons and went leaps and bounds to help cover for his inability to shoot or play consistently in the half-court setting, perhaps Simmons didn't realize how selfish his trade request may have come across to a lot of people. A lot of people like the Sixers franchise and the entire Philly fan base. And since Simmons' trade request wasn't honored within the time frame he had originally planned for, he chose not to suit up for a single game for 4 straight months as he anticipated a change of scenery. $19 million lost. Just for sitting on the bench stone-faced for 4 months, because when he was traded to the Nets, he didn't even play until the start of this ongoing season. I know what a lot of us were thinking. Now that Simmons was finally out from under the entire circus that was in Philly, he would finally suit up and play games while playing alongside 2 of the top offensive threats in the NBA, in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Wait. They aren't even there anymore. Never mind. But if things couldn't get any worse for Simmons, somehow, some way, he was injured with a bad back after he was already sent to the Nets. According to the shams of The Athletic, Simmons wasn't fit to play because of severe stress-induced back pain.
No, I'll be great. And I'm excited to play with, Kev, Kai, Joe, all those guys. Like, we just have an unbelievable team. And I know it, like, for me, after surgery, I knew it was going to take to get back to where I need to be. And I've been locked in. It's been tough. Like, obviously, no rehab is easy, but it's a grind. And that's what it's all about for me. Like, that's my mini season. Every time I've had a situation where I've been hurt or whatever it is, that's my time to lock in and focus and get to where I need to be.
But only if he was as confident on the court as he was during this interview, because Simmons has struggled big time for significant stretches. Still reluctant to shoot, a lack of intensity on both ends of the court, and sometimes just looking downright lost. For a guy who was once upon a time the future of a franchise and one of the best young talents in all of the NBA, it's hard to stomach all of this. After not coming off the bench a single time in his entire career, Simmons has been one of the last guys off the bench as the Nets try to find a role effective enough for him. Brooklyn's head coach is confused, just baffled. Like, What do I do with this guy? At this point, they don't even know what to do with him. You can't trade him either. He makes far too much money for someone giving you 3 points off the bench. Boys, it's turned into a sorry situation. And seriously, how do you work through something like this? And where does Ben Simmons go from here? After playing in just 15 games this past season, Ben Simmons has gone into complete irrelevancy. He's gone completely ghost. For someone who is expected to be a generational talent in the NBA, this is one of the craziest stories ever.